2018's Remothered Tormented Fathers was considered to be a modern spiritual successor to iconic survival horror game Clock Tower, but what it had in atmosphere and tension, it lacked in both fundamentals and refinement. And despite some modest success, it largely went under the radar. Remothered Broken Porcelain is the upcoming sequel, and developer Stormline Games is attempting to polish the formula and invigorate the survival horror genre with a new, terrifying experience. In Remothered Broken Porcelain, you play as 15-year-old Jennifer, a young maid at the Ashman Inn who's begun to discover the true horrors that go on behind closed doors. The connection to its predecessor feels extremely loose, although I'm sure more tangible links will be revealed as the story progresses. And while it's technically a sequel, game director Chris Darrell is very insistent that it's welcoming to new players as well as returning fans. And thanks to its significant improvements on the formula, at least from a gameplay standpoint, what I've seen so far leads me to agree. Everything that encapsulated the horror experience of Tormented Fathers returns. A creepy, classic horror-inspired location, this time swapping out a mansion for a hotel, terrifying stalkers roaming the hallways, and, perhaps most importantly, strict limitations on the ability to defend yourself. Yes, much like classic survival horror games of the past, and more recently Alien Isolation, Remothered Broken Porcelain is a game about avoiding the threat rather than taking it head-on. Stealth, hide and seek, and distraction are all returning core mechanics, and the true terror is often the anticipation of threat rather than the danger itself. The first Remothered had all the right intentions, but didn't quite stick the landing. The sequel attempts to build upon its predecessor's excellent scene setting with mechanics that do the atmosphere justice. In Tormented Fathers, it could often feel like avoiding the stalker was just a case of luck. It seems like Broken Porcelain has taken this failing on board and adapted not only a general maneuverability of the characters, but also provided a legitimate cover system, something that was shockingly omitted from the first game's hide and seek options. Protagonist Jennifer also has far more tools in her arsenal than her predecessor Rosemary did. Literally so. Remothered allows the player to not only collect general household items to be used for defense and distraction, but now has incorporated crafting. I can't say right now how deep this system goes, but I can imagine that, in keeping with the genre's DNA, crafting will be limited to practical items that a 15-year-old scared out of her mind could realistically make. Jennifer also comes equipped with a new ability that's a little more supernatural called Maathai, an ability which allows you to preemptively scope out areas and gather intel on the pursuers and even briefly mark their position. New abilities such as this not only serve the function of improving the experience, but are also an attempt to encourage the resourcefulness of a player trying to deal with not just one, but multiple stalkers. Yes, unlike Tormented Fathers, in Broken Porcelain it's now possible for several stalkers to be hunting you at once. Not just that, they can even work together in trying to sniff you out. The stalkers, such as the hotel's owner Mr. Ashman, seem switched on and more in tune with their environment than the previous game's antagonists, where it felt like they stumbled across you in their predetermined patterns. The enemies this time appear smarter and will do everything in their power to find and eventually kill you. Perhaps what will prove to be Remothered's greatest asset though are the environments that promise to make you feel trapped with no escape. In turn, the satisfaction of strategically moving your way through them and then discovering an exit will become its own reward. During the presentation, I saw the kitchen and restaurant areas that the game's producer openly declared were inspired by similar locations in The Shining's Overlook Hotel. It's clear not only through this game, but also Tormented Fathers, that Remothered's horror influences are worn on its sleeve. Game director Chris Darrell has made no secret about the similarity of Rosemary Reed to Jodie Foster's FBI agent Clarice Starling from Silence of the Lambs, and when I questioned new antagonist Andrea's similarity to Kathy Bates in Misery, he gleefully responded with, "You've noticed another reference." I'm not quite sure how I feel about Remothered's heavy-handed approach to horror references. For a genre fan like myself, it's definitely cool to spot these moments, and playing in environments where you've previously experienced scares can add to the experience. But I'd also like to see Stormline Games focus more on building its own staples of horror instead of trying to stand on the shoulders of giants. I'm excited to see more of Remothered Broken Porcelain, as what little I've seen has shown promise. Transparent influences aside, I think the world and environment building is strong, and I'm hopeful that with all the new core mechanics, the gameplay can be elevated to match its great and terrifying tone.